Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a breaking story out of South Korea. It's based on an SBS News report from May 18th, 2025.
Right, and it seems to be causing quite a stir around the ongoing Unification Church investigation.
Exactly. The core issue seems to be these allegations of bribery within the church, and this report apparently dropped a key piece of evidence.
Yeah, a pretty significant piece, it sounds like. It feels like this could really change the direction, or at least the perception, of the investigation.
Definitely. So what we're going to do today is really unpack that SBS report and look at what it might mean. We're also drawing on a document we have, a joel.pdf, which gives some insight into where the investigation might be headed now.
Okay, so we'll look at the main allegations, who's involved, or at least potentially involved,
Okay.
and, what the fallout could be for the Unification Church itself.
We'll try and bring you some clarity on what's obviously a pretty complicated and, well, fast-moving situation. So let's start with the trigger, this SBS News report. What exactly did it reveal?
Well, the report on May 18th, it basically highlighted what seems to be crucial evidence of bribery inside the church.
Okay.
And the source, interestingly, is apparently a statement from someone identified only as Chanel Madame.
Chanel Madame. Okay, that's memorable. What did she claim?
She reportedly claims she gave gift packages, specifically in Chanel shopping bags. Quite a detail there to someone described as a highest-ranking official within the Unification Church.
Wow, okay. That specificity, as you say, often matters in these kinds of things. Now, where does someone like Yoon Young-ho come into this?
Right, this is where it starts connecting. So even before they summon Gunjin Monk, the prosecutors apparently questioned Yoon Young-ho. That was back on May 15th.
Okay.
And the allegation is that Yoon Young-ho received some kind of investigative intelligence, basically confidential info from the investigation, from this same highest-ranking official back in October 2022.
Whoa, okay. Receiving confidential investigative details. That immediately suggests, well, potential collusion, doesn't it?
Yeah. It certainly raises that possibility. Collusion between maybe figures in the church and potentially someone inside law enforcement or the investigation itself. That's a serious implication.
It really is. And then Yoon Young-ho apparently added another layer during his questioning.
Yes, this is quite something. He apparently stated that his own attempts to deliver gifts to Kim Kyon-hee, the First Lady, were actually orchestrated by Hak-ja.
The current leader of the Unification Church.
The current leader, yes, that's what he reportedly claimed.
If that's true, that changes the game significantly. It moves Hak-ja from maybe just being negligent or unaware to potentially being directly involved.
Exactly. It suggests a much more active role, potentially.
And Yoon Young-ho, he's also suspected of handling, large amounts of money.
Yes, billions of won. There's suspicion he managed these funds within the church structure, and the worry is that this money might have been used for pretty widespread lobbying efforts.
And it sounds like multiple sources are pointing towards this financial angle.
That's right. His testimony is seen as really significant because he was apparently central to the church's finances and decision-making. So if anyone could substantiate these lobbying claims, it might be him.
And when we talk about lobbying here, we mean efforts to influence government policies, that sort of thing.
Precisely. Using resources to gain influence or favorable treatment.
Now, the analysis document we have also points to other figures possibly being drawn in.
Yes. It mentions Jung Won-ju, the vice president. He's likely under investigation, too, suspected of being involved either directly or indirectly in the bribery or maybe attempts to cover it up.
Being the vice president, his involvement would be pretty high up the chain.
Definitely. It suggests the investigation isn't just looking at Yoon Young-ho in isolation.
And there's Lee Cheong-woo mentioned as well, the chief of staff.
Correct. Similar situation expected to be part of the investigation, possibly facing allegations of distorting the facts or trying to conceal what was happening.
So if you piece all this together, it looks like the investigation is really moving from Yoon Young-ho towards the core power structure of the church.
That's certainly how it appears. The report suggests prosecutors might even have evidence relating to the whole chain of command. The planning, the orders, the actual execution of these alleged lobbying and bribery schemes.
Okay. And what's the impact of all this within the Unification Church right now?
Well, as you'd expect, it's reportedly causing significant damage to their reputation. Public image is taking a hit.
I can imagine. Trust must be a major issue.
Absolutely. The analysis mentions that the trust of the followers, the Stoyu, is being, quote, severely shaken. Allegations like these, especially involving potentially misappropriated donations, That hits hard.
which leads to what our source document calls a crossroads for the church.
Yeah, it sounds like the current leadership is facing a really critical moment.
The thinking seems to be that this isn't just about a few rogue individuals anymore.
Exactly. The investigation seems to be pointing towards something more systemic, implying a kind of organizational responsibility.
And the analysis is pretty blunt. It says avoiding responsibility now is basically impossible given where things seem to be headed.
Especially with these allegations involving potentially billions of won in donations being misused for lobbying and bribery. I mean, if proven, those are serious criminal acts.
With potentially serious legal consequences under South Korean law.
No doubt. So the source material really urges the church to take both legal and ethical responsibility here.
And it suggests the only way to rebuild trust is full transparency.
That seems to be the argument. Reveal the truth, cooperate fully with the investigation that's presented as the only path to potentially regaining public confidence.
Okay, so let's just quickly summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive. We've got this SBS News report acting as a catalyst.
Right. Sparking a potentially widening investigation into alleged bribery and lobbying within the Unification Church.
An investigation that seems to be reaching into the core leadership, with figures like Yen Young-ho, Jong-won-ju, Lee Chung-woo under scrutiny.
And Yoon's testimony even potentially implicating the leader, Hak-ja, in orchestrating some activities.
The potential consequences are huge, serious legal trouble, massive reputational damage.
It could force a real moment of reckoning for the entire organization.
Definitely. And as this all unfolds, it really makes you think, doesn't it? It raises these big questions about accountability, especially for powerful religious organizations.
The influence they wield, the importance of transparency when there's so much money involved.
Yeah. What does this situation tell us, or what might it tell us, about that complex, sometimes murky intersection of faith, finance, and potentially corruption? It's certainly something to keep an eye on and think about.